Hey, I'm Colin Lacy, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to set up a managed Kubernetes cluster in AWS using Tycoon CloudWorks. It's just going to be a few clicks, and then we'll have a ready, secure Kubernetes cluster that we can use and we can give access to our users. So here we go. We're looking at the CloudWorks dashboard, and you can see I've got no projects. Let's solve that problem. So if we come into my AWS console, you can see in IAM users, I provisioned a user called CloudWorks. And that user has admin access. Now, realistically, you probably want to get a little more fine-grained, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to get it done quickly, so that'll work. I've already provisioned an access key. So let's come into CloudWorks, and we're going to add our cloud credentials. That's going to give CloudWorks access to this AWS account. Add cloud credentials. You can see I've already got one set up for an OpenStack account, but we're going to call this AWS Connect. All right, and I've got my credentials copied over here. Paste them in. Pretty straightforward. We're going to say this is going to be in the US East, North Virginia, so US East 1. And how many zones do we want to attach? I'm just going to say 3, right? We don't need all 6 zones. And add cloud credentials. Boom. That's simple. Now we have an AWS connection. So CloudWorks can connect to my AWS account and set up all the things I need. I do not want to save that password. All right. Now that that's set up, we can start setting up our project. So you can see if I come into AWS, I've only got the default VPC in this region. And if we look at our EC2 instances, I don't have any. Okay, let's put a tack in that. Let's keep that in mind. Coming back into CloudWorks, if I go to projects, now I want to set up a project. And this is where we'll actually create our Kubernetes cluster in AWS using that connection we just set up. So we're going to call this AWS K8 project. And we're not going to use the OpenStack connection. We're going to use the AWS connection that I just set up. I'm going to leave a lot of these in their default state, right? I'm not going to set a lot of custom configuration. So I'm just going to create this project. Now remember, I already said US East 1, 3 availability zones. So it's setting it up right now. And this takes a second. All right, great. Project was created. So now we've got this project. It's ready to go. And we've got Kubernetes version 1.30.4. Cool. So let's click in here, right, in my project listing. And we don't have any resources yet. So the first thing we need to do if we want to add servers, and we do, is we need to click on flavors here. Flavors is going to show us the types of EC2 instances that have been bound to this project. And right now, I don't have any. Let's fix that. Let's click on available flavors, and that's going to load the list of EC2 instance types that are available. So I'm going to choose 2. The first one I'm going to choose is the T2 instance type. All right, that's going to be for my pass-through, Bastion, and for my cluster master. So I'll bind that to the project. Great, that was bound to the project successfully. Perfect. And then I'm also going to select, see, it's gone now because it's already selected, so I don't need to select it again. So I'm going to select the C4 instance type, and that's going to be for my worker nodes. Select that, bind to the project. It's going to bind. Great, it's done successfully. I'll come back to bound flavors to see, are they both added? And they are. Great. So now when I want to add servers, these are the 2 instance types that I'll have available. All right, let's back out of here. And I'm going to add these servers. Now, there's a minimum of 3 servers that you need to add in order to provision a Kubernetes cluster. You need to add a master node, a worker node, and a bastion. So I'm going to do that. The first one I'm going to do is my K8 main. Right? It's got the kube master role. I'm going to have this be a T2, 2x large. I'm going to leave a lot of these default settings. I'm going to put it in the A availability zone. Great. And then I'm just going to add a label, role, main. Cool. I'm going to add. And it adds. So now next, we're going to add our worker node. We're going to add server. We're going to give it a name, worker 1. It's already got the kube worker role selected. Fantastic. It's already got the C4 flavor selected. How awesome is that? We're going to move on. Disk size, number of servers, everything's looking good. We're going to put this in the B availability zone. So US 1B, we're going to add. Cool, we're almost there. The last thing we need to add is a bastion. So we're going to add a server again. And we're going to say, this is our bastion. And it's going to have the role. Bastion, fantastic. This only needs to be a T2X large. It's a pass-through server, right? We're going to leave everything default, and we're going to put this in the C availability zone. I'm going to add it. It's going to add successfully. All pretty straightforward, right? So now, this green button that's wiggling and really wants me to click it, this is going to deploy my Kubernetes cluster. So here we go. I'm going to click this. It's going to say, are you sure? Yes, I am. I click, and now things are happening. So what this is going to do behind the scenes, this is going to set up my Kubernetes cluster. And it's important to know, it's not going to set it up in EKS. It's not going to add any extra costs. I already have management set up for this cluster in CloudWorks. I don't need EKS to add another layer of management. So it's going to keep my costs low while it's provisioning a managed Kubernetes cluster for me to use. That's awesome. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes right now. There's EC2 is getting provisioned. There's security groups. There's VPCs. There's routing tables. There's a lot going on. So this takes a few minutes. All right. A few minutes have passed. All the things happen behind the scenes. And now we can see this Kubernetes cluster is ready. So I look down over here. Each one of these EC2s all set, healthy, ready to go. That's awesome. If I click into my VPCs tab, look, there's a new VPC that CloudWorks stood up for me. Let's look at it. I come down here and you can see all the resources have been set up with subnets and route tables. That's cool. If I come into my instances tab, I've got 3 instances now. 2 T2s, right? That's what we expect, a bastion and a cluster master, and then a cluster worker, C4. That's awesome, exactly as I set it up. So let's come back into CloudWorks and look, I can click kubeconfigs and I can add a kubeconfig. Well, I'm going to call this my admin config. What namespace? We'll say default. Make it simple, make it straightforward. It's going to have edit access as opposed to view, right? And we're going to say never expires. I'm going to add this. It provisions the kubeconfig. So it takes all the information necessary for a successful kubeconfig and it compiles it into a single file. And now I'm going to download it. So let's do that. I'm going to download it. Awesome. Do we want to take a look? Yes, we do. So I'm going to pull this down into VS Code. It opens it up right here. So what server is it pointing to? It's pointing to this 44.209.39.28. What server is that? So if I come back into my EC2 instances, it's my, Bastion server. That's the public IP of my Bastion. So you can see it's all set up to route through the Bastion and into my cluster. And what's nuts, if I look at EKS clusters, you can see I don't have any. This didn't set up an EKS cluster. Exactly like I said, it's all managed in CloudWorks. So it's keeping my costs low. So now let's come back and try this one out. All right, I'm going to come back into VS Code and I'm going to say kubeconfig downloads AWS K8's project kubeconfig.yaml. So that's the one I just downloaded. And we're going to get pods in the default namespace. Now there shouldn't be any, but there it is. No resources found in the default namespace. The fact that it connected successfully means this kubeconfig works. So there is a lot more that we could dive into with CloudWorks. Like I said, I left everything as default. I haven't added any users yet. I haven't added any virtual clusters yet. There are so many features we could explore, and we will in later videos. But for now, that's how easy it is. A few minutes of clicking sets up a managed Kubernetes cluster in AWS or any other cloud that you're connected to. So stay tuned for more videos. We're going to dive into a lot of different ways to use CloudWorks. Thanks for watching.